Welcome back to the Writer's Happy Hour. It's episode 4. We've got Holden Mars, also known as Taylor. He is currently a published author on Amazon. You can go ahead and find his stuff. It is called For the Children. It's a short story collection. It's very good. Highly recommend it. I'm going to post a link to it in the bottom of the description for you guys who want to go and give him some love and read it, buy it, and
Yeah, God knows I need the love.
put some reviews out for it. Okay, let me go ahead and do this. Boom. Get my questions up here. All right, so go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get going here.
Let's see. I'm 6'3", about 250. Like taking long walks on the beach. Not really. I actually hate the sand.
It's coarse and it gets everywhere.
It does, yeah. It's not all that fun, especially once you're an adult and you have to clean it up. I don't like it. So no, but I mainly like working with my hands, and I like working in creative ways. So I had never even considered writing until I got into community college and had to take a creative writing class as one of my core subjects.
Right.
And so I took it, and my creative writing teacher was like, "Hey, you should come on to the basically the artistic literary journal as one of the editors." And she made me fall in love with the whole editing and writing process.
Awesome. So I know you have your book out on Amazon. Is there anything else you're working on right now?
I am working on a couple things. One dealing more with mental illness, and one dealing more with like mental illness and potentially kind of like I want to say worst case scenario violent effects that
Right.
it can have.
Right.
And the way that can build and build and build, and it's actually a big focus of it is going to be how it's important to get help and not to shut people out whenever you start to feel these things building up, because it can explode. And then the other one is more of a trip into how it can feel to be mentally ill. It's going to be kind of a possessed doll kind of thing, but the doll doesn't come to life and kill people or anything like that. It's speaks through people's minds and such, and it's gonna be that's the one that I'm working on right now, because
Awesome.
the other one I've hit kind of a standstill on.
Right.
So
Um, we'll touch on more of the mental illness stuff going on, but I want to bring it back to the community college stuff. So I know you said that your teacher kind of got you into it.
yeah.
You want to kind of elaborate more on that, like how so what kind of like I know that kind of got you started, but like what really really hooked you into getting into writing?
It was actually For the Children.
Oh, okay.
For the Children was an assignment where, excuse me,
Oh,
where
you're
we
fine.
had to take a song and make a very, very, very short story out of it using lyrics from the song. And the song I chose is actually Burn It Down by AWOL Nation. And
Oh,
if you, yeah, it's a fun song, it's a
that
lot of
is.
energy.
It's a good song.
It is not a lot like the part where he talks about he was gazing through a telescope at his own feverish body. That uses the lyrics of in the song whenever they're talking about they're looking through a telescope and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And obviously he had to burn it down lyrics from the song, stuff like that. Um, but it was very short, and I thought to myself, this could be a lot bigger. And so I just kept working on it, working on it, working on it, and eventually I was gonna submit it to that literary journal that I was working on, but she was like, "This is too long, and it doesn't fit our current basically aesthetic for
Right.
this issue." And she's like, "Trim it down by so many hundred of words or something like that, and get it back to me. I really want to include it." So I actually rewrote a second ending where he gets shot by snipers out of the helicopter.
Okay. Cool.
So, but that piece is what really got me into writing, was for the children.
That's awesome. I'm big into music and the messages that it brings along and everything like that. And I think it's super cool that that was a project that your teacher put out. That's actually a really good writing exercise
Yeah,
is to do
she
that.
had a lot of them.
Yeah, that might be something I start trying to work on is taking some songs that I like and building a story out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, every song essentially is a story of its own.
Right,
What you got to figure out is how you're gonna tell it.
right, right. Um, so, going on to music and stuff like that, what are your biggest inspirations? So, what do you pull from the most when you write?
Um, I'd say really what I try to do whenever I'm writing is I try to pull from uh, personal experiences the most, and the different things that people have told me or that I've heard people tell other people, which is why I really like a lot of particularly kind of emotional music, like Highly Suspect.
Right,
I listen to quite a bit because a lot of their songs focus on emotion and feeling and stuff like that. At least the ones that I like. And I listen to a lot of Disturbed. Uh, I listen to Arctic Monkeys. I listen to. Uh, I actually love uh, classic country love songs
yeah,
because they're all like "He Stopped Loving Her."
yep, yeah, yeah. It was George Jones, right? Yeah, yeah. That dude was one of the greatest songwriters to ever come in, and like I was telling you before we got on, you know, it's 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 crazy because the best writers have the most rough and storied pasts. There was so much going on with George with his addictions and mental health issues, and it's crazy to think that a guy like that could come out and put some of the most beautiful songs out into the world. You know, so it's cool that you can pull from that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, yeah, right, right, right. And it's that can be therapeutic in its own way. Um,
Yeah,
because I tend to I pull a lot of my emotions and a lot of what I have going on and put it down on paper, and that's how I get my quote unquote demons out and get my mind clear. But listening to somebody else talk and going through somebody else's mind or words and feeling what they felt and then using that as well to kind of pull from to help write is therapeutic in its own way.
Yeah, it
Hearing
really is.
stories from guys on the fire department and EMS and the stuff that they go through. I've seen some stuff, but not as much as guys who've been on the job 10, 20, 30 years, and the stuff that they've seen is a whole lot worse than what I've seen. But
Right.
knowing that they've gone through it too and being able to take their stories and get them out, is a way for me to get, a kind of cathartic release of my own, you know, being able to visually see right then and there, hey, this guy went through it too, and if getting that stuff on paper can help somebody get through it, then you're doing your job and you're doing good work. Um, it's kind of with the Prometheus effect. That's kind of what I'm trying to do as well, is to highlight a lot of PTSD and addiction problems, um, because
Yeah.
you'd be surprised at the kind of toll it takes on people, and um, being a firefighter or being emergency response in general, and it's good to shed light on that kind of stuff, and it's not a downer on people in that you know in that field at all. You know, addiction's a disease. It's not addiction and mental illness is a disease. It's not a stigma. It's not a thing to be hateful towards. It's not a thing to be angry about.
Yeah.
It's a thing that needs to be addressed and to be fixed. Somebody's got a fever or the flu, you're not just going to let them die from the flu. You got to be
Right.
able to recognize
It's
those symptoms and fix it. And notice, hey, this person's sick. They're not bad. They're not evil. They're not degenerates. They're sick. There's a reason behind why they're doing what they're doing.
yeah,
You
it's a
know,
chemical imbalance, man.
Right, right. I mean, it's chemical imbalance. It's trauma. It's your body literally just forced itself to have a fight or flight response to a situation that you normally don't need a fight or flight response to.
Yeah.
And it's good to pull from that kind of stuff. It's good to use that and to get that out there because it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
It needs to be brought into the
It
light.
really
and,
does.
and we're in a day and age now that we're actually being able to open up a dialogue about that stuff. We're actually able to talk about that stuff and get it out in the open.
Yeah.
So it's good that you use that to pull from, and you're going to do a lot of good work doing that, and it's going to help a lot of people. You know,
I hope so.
I mean, by a lot, I mean 1, 2, 10. That's a lot of people.
Hey, if it
Saving.
helps one person not want to hurt themselves, that's more than enough.
Right,
You just got
right.
to help one person.
Yep, yep. So do you have somebody, or have you had anybody that was like a mentor to you when you getting into this, or did you kind of just work on it on your own and went your own path with it?
No, I just went right into it. I didn't. There's nobody in my family that really is a writer. We don't know anybody that writes. We don't really know anybody that does anything creatively. Most of the people that my family knows are very career driven and very hard workers and stuff like that, and they're very good people. But they don't. The only person that we even could think of was a guy that my dad knew that wrote a book about his father's life
Right.
and his passing and how it affected him and how he grieved about it. Nothing fictional, nothing creative, just a very just that. So I really just kind of jumped into it on my own, which is kind of funny because uh, I still have trouble figuring out the difference between metaphors and similes.
Oh,
I like the basics of writing and stuff like that, and
let me tell you, dude. Going through college, before I left. Hey, what's up, Charlie? Going through college before I left, I was horrible at every English class I took
Yeah.
because I'm the kind of person like I understand metaphor, I understand simile, I understand imagery and, symbolism and all this other stuff, but it's like unless you personally knew the author, unless you personally knew who wrote this, you cannot tell me what the imagery is or what the metaphor is there. And I had
Sometimes a red wagon's just a red wagon.
exactly, blue curtains don't mean depression. It just means that they like blue curtains. And
Yeah.
I had a hard time. I still have a hard time doing that. It's, I have a hard time kind of reading a book and going, oh, that's what they mean by that. Oh, this scene means this, or this pertains to this point in their life. And it's
Yeah. I mean, it can be fun to do stuff like that. It can be fun to pull apart the book and really take a look at what it could mean, but it's so hard to say for sure.
right, right. It's hard to pinpoint it down. And I think I realized a little too late when it came to school, like in English classes and stuff, that if you BS hard enough, you can make your point on anything.
Yeah.
You can make somebody believe that that's what you think it is, and that's what,
Yeah.
But my issue was teachers telling me, no, this is what it is. This is what you have to pull from it. You didn't tell me that this is what you figured out. Well, what I interpret is going to be different than what you interpret.
Yeah.
What I read is different from what the textbook says it is. Everything's relative. Everything's relative. And I think I'm finding more and more as I'm talking to people that a lot of guys do it. I don't know if you're on the stream, but the chat's getting pretty spicy.
Uh-oh. It's getting spicy.
Yeah. Let's see.
Where's the chat?
Okay. This is my friend Charlie, who I've been friends with for years. Similes are when you use like or as, and metaphors are direct personification. Simile,
Oh.
my ass cheeks are like red cherries. Metaphor, my penis is a pleasure getaway.
Oh. Okay. That's actually,
That
I might remember it now.
There you go. See, we're
might.
helping people out, doing God's
Yeah.
work here.
Yeah.
Uh, that was a big derailer. But I'm finding that a lot of guys kind of start off that like, a lot of people just start off on their own, and they just kind of go their own way with it. And I feel having a mentor is great, and having a mentor to help you out with and to send stuff to kind of get editing and formatting stuff from is great. But as far as
Yeah.
finding your own style, I would definitely advocate going on your own because
Yeah.
you can learn a whole lot about yourself and really get your own voice by doing that. And with a mentor, you can kind of start to mimic their patterns a little bit, and you can kind of lose your voice in your writing.
Yeah, I noticed that with my creative writing teacher that actually got me into it. A lot of times I'd go to her with stuff and she'd be like, "No, don't do this. Do this instead. Say these words." And
Right.
I'd be like, "No. I
Yeah.
like my kind of broken English there.
Right.
I
And
like
that's the thing is what you like is what you like. It doesn't matter what somebody who's critiquing your work says. If you like what you put down, then it's good enough.
yeah,
If you like what you've written, of course, go to somebody for editing, go to somebody for formatting, go to somebody for flow, to make things kind of work a little bit better. But the core of your writing is what you write. The core of your
yeah,
writing is your own. And having a mentor is great, but sometimes having a mentor can be a real hindrance because you wind up taking too much
becoming
from
a
them.
part two.
Right. And it kind of becomes their work more so than
You
your
become
work.
a mini me.
Exactly. Uh, so
Sorry, I do impressions and stuff
you're
too. So
totally fine. I want this loose and free. It works. Um, so I know we touched on mental illness as being a theme. Um, what other themes do you use in your writing? I notice you use a lot of body horror, which I absolutely love. Um, That is one of my favorite genres across all mediums. And the way you use it is a great way to show what the brain goes through during these transitions of realizing you have a mental illness and what the mental illness does to you, and it puts it in a physical sense. And I really like that imagery. But what other themes do you use in your writing?
So far, what I've sent you is really all I have.
Right.
As far as writing goes, but I haven't really explored a lot outside of that, but I'm starting to try to explore more of a cosmic horror type theme.
Yeah, buddy.
The unknown, the undiscovered.
Right.
The scariest shit there is
right.
what we don't know about. It's one of the reasons I hate swimming in deep ocean. Even if I'm right next to a boat or even on a particularly deep lake, if I can't see the bottom, I hate it.
Yep.
I hate it.
Charlie can resonate with that. Yeah, I agree with that. And when I do mine, when I create my monsters and my villains and stuff like that, I pull from that. So most cosmic horror is based off of Lovecraft and what he had done in the early 1900s with his writing and building his mythos, and his whole thing. And it's kind of the mantra for my writing when it comes to villains and monsters and antagonists. And his whole thing was, there is nothing that can create, that nothing can be scarier than what your mind can create.
Yeah.
Because when you use cosmic horror and you use that kind of stuff, you let the reader or the audience make a decision on what that monster is. And if you tell them that it's scary, they're going to think of what's scary to them, and it's going to make it hit that much harder.
Right.
Because they're going to draw that monster in their head, and it's going to be way worse than anything you can come up with. Because what's scary to you might not be scary to me. It might not be scary to another person. And letting the audience come up with in their head what this thing looks like is the best way to get a good, impactful, reaction from it. In Lovecraft, when he describes some of his monsters, he'll have 3 or 4 characters separately describe the same monster, but they're all different descriptions. No one description is the same. And it shows that, one, that the narrator might be unreliable in describing what it is, and you have to make up what it is in your head. And I think doing that is a really good technique in creating tension and creating suspense.
Yeah. The way that I try to go about it is I did it the most in I'm Sorry, John.
Right.
Which actually comes from, do you know what Gorefield is?
Yes.
Comes from Gorefield.
I am subscribed to I'm Sorry, John.
Yes, that is exactly where it came from.
That was my first thought in my head.
So that's the drawings and pictures and depictions of stuff on there is perfect body mutilation type horror.
Yep.
But what I tried to do in that one was I tried to describe just enough. I didn't try to give colors. I didn't try to give anything too particular. I tried to just put out a general description of those monsters.
Right.
And
it's still
let
enough.
You build the rest.
I can tell you right now, it's still enough to when you're reading it, you just go, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Because you're reading it and you're like, Jesus Christ, what is going on? And that's that as a person who loves cosmic horror and body horror and uses it a lot in their writing, that's what you want to get. That's that response you want to get from that. Because you want people to be shocked. Because, again, they're making it up in their heads. It's what they're afraid of.
Yeah.
So I really like I like that you used the I'm sorry, John
Yeah,
images for that. That because when I
comes from Garfield. Yeah,
right, the first thing I thought of when I read that title was that subreddit, and that stuff started popping into my head.
yeah,
Um,
that's exactly what it is. And I figured that anybody that did know that was gonna be like, huh, this
yep,
seems really familiar.
yep, yep. Um, so I know you're focusing on a lot of the mental illness and stuff like that. So what are what messages are you trying to get across into your writing? So I guess the best way to put that is kind of elaborate more on how you use your images to get your messages about mental illness across.
Well, what I'm trying to do the most is show that it's terrifying to have a mental illness and to be around someone that has a mental illness, especially when it's severe enough. Like
Right,
I'm bipolar too, with depression and anxiety,
right,
and my wife has very bad, very bad anxiety. So she'll have panic attacks nearly every day. It's really hard for her, but she says the hardest thing is watching me when I feel good, because that's one of the things about bipolar is you have these really really high moments
yep,
called mania,
yep,
and then you just drop like a rock. And she says she could handle the parts when I dropped like a rock, but whenever I was feeling really good was when she was scared, like actually scared,
right,
because she was afraid that I was bipolar one. I got diagnosed bipolar two, but people that are bipolar one, when they get that high point, they'll feel that they're literally invincible.
yep,
She's read stories about people that have stabbed themselves in the chest in front of their spouses to show them that they couldn't die,
yeah,
and then they ended up dying. And she was always afraid that that was going to happen to me. So, and that's a story that I want to get into, is how scary happiness can be. But what I've done so far really is tried to write about how scary the rock bottom can be, because that's the part that I remember the most.
yes,
Whenever I was up there, I just felt normal.
yep,
But whenever I was down, it was weird. I didn't
yeah,
like it. I hated it. And I want to try to show people what that kind of feels like. And so, especially if someone else is like, oh man, I feel that too, they can kind of recognize, hey, maybe I should get help for this. Maybe this is a problem.
right,
Maybe the fact that I'm tuning into this and feeling something even similar is a sign that everything's not okay.
right.
And so uh, I think I forgot the original question.
No, just the messages you're trying to get across in your writing.
Oh, yeah.
But
Biggest
to
one being that it's okay to get help, because if you don't get help, bad things do happen.
right, right, yeah,
And I just show the bad things that happen. I haven't shown what can happen when you get help. I've just shown what happens when you don't.
right.
And
And
because that's the scary part.
I can definitely tell you I've been there and I've been at rock bottom when it comes to that. I've been diagnosed depression, anxiety, and mild PTSD. And man, when you're at the bottom, it's kind of like looking at a world through a keyhole because you feel so disconnected from everything, and you're just watching the world
Yeah.
outside of you from this dark place. And I can definitely feel that not in a
Yeah.
bad way, but in a good way. I can feel that space when you write, um, and it's really good to see a writer use that for good and to use it to kind of express what they felt and what to show people what the triggers are for that.
Yeah. Like the one that really, the one that I wrote that I really put that into was oh gosh, I can't even remember my own writings. It was the uh, one where he kept hearing her song Mortem. It was Mortem, because I actually uh, at one point did hit that rock bottom so hard that I did overdose on my medications. I was dead for 7 minutes. And
Wow.
after that, I was high as a kite once they revived me for about 12 hours or
Wow.
so.
Yeah.
And my wife says that was the scariest point in her life, was those 12 hours, because she didn't know if I was ever coming down. She didn't know if I'd ever be the same. Um, but that story is the one that really I put the most of my personal uh, experiences and feelings into.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy, man. Um, I'm sad that happened to you. But I'm glad you came out of it on the other
Oh, I'm
side,
glad I'm here too. I'm glad I'm here too.
and it's good that
Got a beautiful wife, gonna have a baby boy. It's
it's,
life is good. There's stuff to live for. It's nice.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Um, you know, I've been on the other end of that, like seeing what that does to people and being there when people are at that moment, and it's rough. It's rough, and if you can save somebody from that, kudos to you, man. You're doing the work that we all set out to do, is to make an
Yeah.
impact and to help somebody, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so it's kind of a rough transition, but
Yeah. Let's talk about puppies or something.
yeah. Well, so what are some of your who are some of your favorite writers? In any format. Musical writers, authors, comic book writers, whatever it may be.
Musical writers, um, I'd have to say again, highly suspect Arctic Monkeys. I like their lyricism the best because, especially with Arctic Monkeys, I see them paint an entire story in their song. And even if I don't like the song, a lot of times I'll like the story.
Right.
Um, which is funny because in their most popular album, they don't have quite as much of that, but they've got some really sick music. Um, so, but as far as just authors go, it's Ray Bradbury for sure. I think I've got like two or three signed copies of Fahrenheit 451.
Oh wow.
Uh, I'm trying to get some of Dandelion Wine and Something Wicked, the Martian Chronicles, all of his big ones, but also his short stories that I read. I read a lot of his short stories a long time ago in like middle school, and they always stuck out to me as being very pertinent to today, even though he was writing them a very long time ago. Um, and he had, these ideas of things that were going to happen, and most of them did.
Yeah, he was a very prophetic writer when it came to that kind of stuff. I think him and Orwell
Yeah,
really shed a
yeah,
lot of light on things that were coming down the pipeline that nobody wanted to look at.
yeah. And so it's Ray Bradbury, um, Orson Scott Card. I don't like him as a person, but I love Ender's Game.
Yeah, you got to separate the
It's
art
my
from the artist.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's what I keep telling people. Like my sister hates him as a person, won't watch it, won't read it, won't do anything. I'm like, but it's so good.
Yep.
I just, I don't know, man.
It's kind of how I have to be with Lovecraft because he did a lot of questionable shit, but you got to think
Yeah.
of time,
Which is,
the
that,
age and everything, but you got to look at the art and separate it from the artist.
yeah. And it's like, It's funny because you said that some of my stuff was kind of Lovecraftian. I haven't read any Lovecraft.
And that blew my mind. And I was talking to Charlie about that on the phone a little earlier before we had hopped on, and I didn't really think about it, but there's so many things that he's touched that his fingerprints are on. You know, um, Charlie had said, it could be anything. It could be you watched, John Carpenter's The Thing. That's Lovecraft. That's
Yeah.
got hinges of Lovecraft. You
Oh yeah.
know, you look at movies like Annihilation. Annihilation's very big into cosmic horror. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Um,
I have not.
oh, it's very good. Uh,
Very good chance that if you ask if I've seen a movie, I haven't seen
I'll have to get you a list. Uh,
it. All right.
Alien. Alien is another one that's very Lovecraft esque.
Yeah.
Pretty much most like body horror stuff is Lovecraft.
Yeah.
It's got those tinges of Lovecraft. Event Horizon is another one. I don't know if you've ever seen that. That's another great horror movie. It actually inspired Dead Space. Um,
Really? Oh,
yes,
I love Dead Space. Dead Space 2 is the best one.
yeah. Event Horizon was, I think, in Charlie. I know you'll correct me in the chat if I'm wrong in this, but Dead Space. I think Event Horizon was the main influence on Dead Space, and it's all about this crew. They're kind of like a rescue crew, and they get a distress signal from a ship that's been missing for like a very long time, and it was supposed to be the first interdimensional ship, and they wound up jumping through hell, and they brought
Oh,
hell back with it,
oh
and the
my
crew
gosh.
starts getting picked apart one by one.
I've got to watch this.
Yeah.
I got to
J-
watch this.
Jacob's Ladder, another great movie. That was the inspiration for Silent Hill.
Oh my gosh. I love Silent Hill.
Jacob's Ladder is another one. That one's a great story, and I mean, I'm not gonna. You haven't seen it. I'm not gonna ruin the ending, but it's kind of a retrospective into the horrors of war and what it does to the
Okay.
human mind. Um, it's another great movie. Another great movie. So when you write, do you have like a how do you format your stuff as you write? Like, do you have a scripting style that you go through, or do you just kind of write it as it goes and then edit it later?
Oh, I just write and edit almost at the same time.
Okay,
I'll write and then I'll be like, huh, I want to use this word, but I used it 2 sentences ago. I'm
right.
going to go change that word back there because it fits better here. And so, actually, I think the only story in that, what I sent you, excuse me, that went through more than 5 drafts was For the Children.
Oh wow. Okay, cool.
The rest of them are second or third drafts, maybe. Um, just because part of it was I wanted to see how the Amazon publishing process was, and I didn't want to put out just For the Children, so I've made some stuff to go with it.
And that's awesome. That's awesome.
Um, and so, but no, I really just kind of come up with the idea and then write, and that's kind of part of my downfall is I can't structure anything
Right.
because if I structure something, I don't want to do it. So
Yeah.
I'll write and I'll write and then I'll be like, but what happens next? I don't know. I just have the ending in the beginning.
Right.
Fuck, I need a middle part. So
And
it's coming up with the middle.
that's definitely a struggle I face too, because when I started the comic book and started writing it, I was like, okay, this is how I want it to start. I want this opening to come out with a left hook to punch you in the jaw. And then, oh, the ending can be this. The ending can be that. And, oh, yeah, we can do that. And then I'm like, okay, but how am I going to get there? You
Yeah,
know, how
that's
am
the
I going to
getting there
make
that's
this
hard.
all work and get these cogs to fit? Um, I
There's no
find
Google Maps for it.
Right. I find, sitting down and just, flowing with it for a little while and seeing what works and what doesn't work, because I'll write 3 or 4 paragraphs and then I'll realize, wait a minute. Okay, that really doesn't make sense. Let me go back to this paragraph and change it and see how that works. Okay, well, now that I did that, this changes it. And now that I do that, this changes it. Okay, well, now I'll, work everything together. And I find that it kind of just, for lack of a better term, forces the cogs to fit, but in a fluid motion kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, So, uh, that type of writing definitely helps. Obviously it's different for me because I'm doing a comic book, so I have different sets of scripts for how I do things. So I'll have a literary script where it's just I write the whole thing out first, so I have it all planned out. And then I do an artist outline where I take what I have planned out and put it into pages and panels and stuff like that. And then I'll add the letterer's outline where I'll put the dialogue where it needs to go and let them have fun with it. I know it's different for a short story writer and literary writers because theirs is kind of like, okay, well, here's first draft, second draft, third draft. Okay, here we go, it's out, kind of thing. Um, have you worked with anybody else? Or have you just, I mean, obviously, you've only got your one out, but have you ever like thought about working with anybody else or, kind of, like pairing up on a project or anything like that? Yeah. Yeah. Did you know in this business, I've found that, um, hang on, talk for me real quick. Okay, hang on, I gotta adjust something here. Did this last time. Okay, and done. All right, go ahead and talk for me now.
What's up?
There you go. You're back. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just got to go in and edit the settings for a
Awesome.
minute there. Sometimes it clips out. Um,
Weird.
yeah. Um, so in this business, dude, you find so many people that you want to be nice and you want to be creative and you want to be constructive, and you got to find that balance when you're editing of construction, constructive criticism, but still getting your point across like, look, you really need to work on this, like this doesn't
Yeah.
really work, this doesn't fit, this isn't formatted correctly.
No, with me, it's more like BDSM. Like I'm just absolutely like, bam, 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 you did this wrong. But then there's aftercare where I tell them what they did right.
Nice. So you
So,
take the Gordon Ramsay approach.
yes, what are you?
It's
An
fucking
idiot sandwich.
rotten. Now here's how
Yeah,
to fix it.
yeah, pretty much. I, I'll like, I think that one point, there was one person I was talking to, helping them edit something, and I said, "Why did you even include this sentence? The sentence is completely useless."
I mean,
And they
but
were like, "But I love the imagery of it." I'm like, "That's fine, but it shows them literally nothing. It's a bunch of pretty words. Get rid of it." And that's whenever they stopped working with me.
dude, it's writers are very weird, man, because some people can handle it and some people can't. You know,
Yeah,
um,
and that's the thing is, I can't seem to get any feedback on my work from anybody other than friends and family members, and I can't seem to get many other writers to give me any feedback because a lot of people seem uh, like they want the quid pro quo without the pro quo.
right,
They just want the quid,
right.
and so uh, I'll have said something about theirs, and then I'll get nothing back about mine. So all of my stuff is my friends and family saying, "Oh, this is great! This is great! This is great!" And I'm like, "Okay, but where's it not great?" And my wife is actually the best at telling me that where it's not great. Partly because she knows my delicate sensibilities, and she brings up to me points that I had never even thought of and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
uh, it's good to have a person like that that can be nice and still tell you that you suck.
yeah.
So,
Um,
which,
I just want to give a shout out. I saw we have a new person in. Hey, Breakdown, what's up? Thank you for joining us. Um, Stick around. We're gonna have some fun. Uh, so yeah, and I've noticed that too. So my whole goal is to try and create a community of writers that are actually active in helping other people.
yeah,
As I'm all for, look, give me your work. Let me read it. I'll tell you what I think of it. I'll tell you what I feel like needs to be adjusted. I'll tell you what I feel like, you're good at and what you need to focus on. What I feel you need to focus on. And again, it's all perspective. If you don't want to take my advice, hey, I'm just here to help. And if you don't want to take it, that's fine. Hey, I hope it works out for you. I got lucky enough to have, Charlie, who's a writer, help me with my stuff, and I found a few different discords and groups that help with that. But I do find that it's hard to get people to read your stuff and respond, but it's easy for them to put their stuff out there. And
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's hard to it's hard to deal with because you want your stuff, you take time to review other people's work, and it's just like you don't have the common courtesy to review their own. And I know people have lives and people have things that they're trying to do, and that's all fine and dandy, but like, take the time out to help the community, because if you just take and take and take, eventually it's going to run out. You have to give back to keep the machine going.
Yeah.
But I do think that working with other people as a community, since not necessarily like, oh, we're going to partner up on this book and write a book together kind of thing.
Right.
But let's, as a community, collectively help each other. As a community, let's, you're working on this. Okay, send this in. We'll all read it and we'll tell you what we think of it. And here's my stuff. Okay, we'll all read it and we'll tell you what we think of it. And that's kind of what I want to try and do, is create that community like that for writers, because I know it's hard as a writer starting out to find other people to talk to about this kind of stuff.
It really is. And you'll see that like on Reddit, you'll see it in like our writers and writing and stuff like that. You'll see people like, where can I find beta readers? And I'm like, the hell if I know.
Yeah. Find a community,
Yeah.
get on Twitter, talk to people on Twitter, and,
I'm the worst at social media.
I am too. I'm horrible at it. But I was lucky enough to, when I got on Twitter, meet up with these guys. Macho Dan, who was on episode 2 of the podcast, we had reached out to each other and talked a little bit about our projects and what we were working on, and he was a phenomenal help. And it's good finding those people. It's good, reaching out and talking to those people and getting a good community around you. So how long have you been creating for?
God, when was that? That was years ago. I'd say since about 2017, 2016, 2017 is how long I've actually been, like, that was whenever I first started. And then I'm just now starting to kind of get back into it within the past year or two.
Okay, cool.
Because I just really took a lot of time away from it between For the Children and I think Mortem was the next thing that I did.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a 1 or 2 year gap between those two things. And there was actually even it took me probably about a year and a half just to get through For the Children, because I worked on it so irregularly.
Right. And I noticed, and I don't know if the same goes for you, but, suffering from issues like depression, anxiety, and stuff like that, it's hard. It's once you get going, it's easy to keep going. But the biggest mountain you have to climb is getting started.
Oh gosh, it's that cancel culture. Have you heard about that?
Oh yeah.
It's basically a self-cancel culture.
It's exactly what it is.
I'll be like, I'm going to write today. And then I'll go to write and I'll be like, you know what I could do instead? I could take a nap, and then I'll take a nap.
Yep.
And I'll feel great.
Yep. And then you've lost 3 months down the line and you're going, oh shit.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Where am I at with that?
That's why I don't think I could be one of those authors where someone gives you 50 grand and says, hey, write a book. Just use this to live on or something like that. And as much as I'd like that, they'd never get their book.
Exactly. Like I said before, I lost a whole year due to just depression and exhaustion and stuff. And I had in my head, I swear to God, I thought that I had finished that first issue. I had everything done on it. I was ready to go. I just needed it lettered and colored. And
Yeah.
when you look and you go, oh shit, I've only got half done. I've got a whole
Yeah.
other half of this thing to fucking write.
And that's
What
the
am I gonna do?
worst when you're editing your own stuff. If you don't sit down and edit through the whole thing repeatedly, at least in my experience, if you just edit half of it and then go and edit the next half of it later, you end up editing that first half while you're editing the second half, and then you got to edit the whole thing anyway because it's just you change so much as a person and in your perspective in the 3 or 4 months between when you edited that first half and when you edited the second half.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that I said that most of those are second or third drafts, is because I just kind of get through it and I'm like, look, if I keep going at this, it's not going to be the same story anymore. It's just going to be different. And that's why a lot of them lack the imagery and stuff for the children, the visceral imagery, is because I did not have the time to properly edit them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things. Again, it just you lose time and you lose focus, and
Yeah.
by the time you're ready to work, you kind of got everything piled on to you because it's so. For me, it's like I put it off, I put it off, I put it off, I put it off, and then I find a reason to write as an escape from my day to day life when things
Yeah.
get heavy. And now it's like, oh, I want to write now, but I've got 5 minutes a day to write. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. I want to get out of here, but I can't,
Right,
basically.
right. Um, and so, I mean, yeah, the next question was, what are some of the pitfalls you've encountered? And I think that's a pretty damn good pitfall. Is
Yeah.
having that depression sink of just derailing that creative train.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes it's not just that you want to write but can't. It's that you don't want to write because you think, well, there's so much other stuff that I could be doing.
Right.
Like I could be doing something to make money. I could be doing my laundry. I could be cleaning my house. Instead, I'm just gonna sit there with my cats and type some words.
Yeah.
It's just it with 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 how much perspective sometimes you have on yourself. If you've got a mental illness and you've really accepted that you have one and you really look into it, you gain a lot of self perspective
Right.
that allows you to have these really kind of sad thoughts of, well, I could do this or I could be
Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
instead.
Oh, there you go. You're
And
back.
and you, did you lose me?
For like a blip, but you're
Okay.
back. Um,
Okay. So,
okay, so then a question to lead into that would be, you know, what what kind of ways have you found to hurdle those pitfalls to kind of, more or less force yourself to write? Because Charlie had said in the chat that to be serious and to um to really get yourself in the zone is setting a goal of 500 to 1,000 words a day kind of thing, and kind of adhering to it. And actually,
yeah.
uh, Charlie, I'm sure he won't mind me talking about it, but he actually suffered from bipolar disorder as well. And
Yeah, it's hard.
it is, and I can tell you right now, watching him write and forcing himself to do it is a fucking journey. It's awesome watching him do that, But what kind of ways did you do? What did you use to kind of motivate yourself to write?
Um, well, part of it was I'm very much a perfectionist person and I don't like to do something if I don't think I'm good at it. Uh, and so it's one of the reasons that I haven't learned another language, is because I just am not good at learning. But what I do is I try to think of all the times that these people that I have shown what I've done to have told me, this is good. I want more. I want more. I wanted this to be longer. Give me more.
Yep.
And so I try to think of, well, there is an audience for me. There is at least someone that wants me to do this, possibly more than I want myself to do this. And so what I'll do is I will occasionally tell someone, hey, I'm working on something new. Hey, I'm working on this. Hey, I'm working on that story. And every so often they'll ask me, how's it going? And I'll have to come up with an answer for them. And I hate having the answer of, it's okay.
Yeah, that's
And not having done anything. So
yeah,
a
that's
lot
the
of
worst.
times the easiest thing for me to do is to make other people hold me accountable for my own words. And the easiest way to do that is to tell my wife that I'm going to do it. And then she'll ask me why I'm not doing it.
Yep.
And I better do it, or she's going to be like, you need to be a man of your word, and this and that. And not to rag on my wife, it's just she really wants me to be the best version of myself that I can be.
Right.
And so when I'm not doing that, she actively lets me know, hey, I know you can be better because I've seen better from you. And so I'll tell her, hey, I'm going to write tonight. And she'll say, okay, when? And I'll say, this time. She'll say, how long? And I'll say, I don't know. And she's like, well, how many words do you think you're going to do? And I'll say, I don't know. And she'll be like, I bet you can put out like 500 words. I bet you can do like 500 words, 200 words, something
Yep.
like that. And I'll get to where she's kind of put me, and I'll at that point I'm like, oh, done. But then I keep going because I want to.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons. That's one of the ways that I get over that hurdle of not wanting to start, is by having someone else being expectant of me.
And that helps out a lot. Before my fiance came around, I had Charlie kind of pushing me a little bit. Every now and then I'd get a text message, "Hey man, how's the comic book going? How's it going? How far along are you? How's it working?"
Yeah.
And then my fiance, it's, we talk about it, and she's like, you're really good at it. This is something I really think is going to be big. I think you're going to work really, it's going to work really well. And it's, oh, are you working on it? Where are you at now? How much longer do you have? What else do you got going on? What's your next steps? And it's good to have, I don't know if you've ever seen that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward is in charge of the Krusty Krab and he keeps slacking off. And SpongeBob always, when he walks back into the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob goes, "Have you finished those errands?" It's good to have that person that's there behind you going, "Have you finished those errands? Have you finished those errands?"
It is. It's good to have a SpongeBob.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I know you had said that you got a baby on the way and you got a wedding coming up and everything, but you know, what's your is writing your main focus right now, or if not, then what are you focusing on right now, and how do you kind of balance that with your writing life?
Right now, my main focus is my baby.
Right,
Um,
100%.
Making enough money to be able to support the baby, to be able to support my wife, and then writing comes basically as a hobby. But me and my wife have talked about it, and she really wants me to be able to make it more of a focus. So she can't get a job right now, but with COVID and her
Yeah,
being,
it's
7 months pregnant, and nobody wants to hire her because she's 7 months pregnant. She's leaving in 2 months
right,
for probably a few months at least,
right,
if postpartum doesn't kick her ass. And so, but she's talked to me about, she really wants, once she does get another job, to allow me to not have to work two jobs and just take some time off and use, my afternoons and stuff to write and read and things like that, which is another thing. All these people are like, to be a good writer, you have to read. I haven't read a full book in about 5 years.
it's hard to find time to read,
It's
man.
hard to find time. And when I say that, I've read books, but I haven't read a new book. I've reread old books, like Of Mice and Men.
Right.
It took me a month to read Of Mice and Men.
I can tell you what, I know you like the cosmic horror and the body horror stuff. Lovecraft is mostly short stories. Very rarely
Yeah.
does he have a whole book. Um, but because I think I've read through one of his, Color Out of Space was the first one I ever read of his. And I think I read through it in an hour and a half.
Hmm.
And it is still one of my favorite pieces of work I've read. Um, and he's got a bunch of them. He's got a bunch of them. That is a good place to start if you want to kind of just
Yeah.
do, and Charlie said too, a chapter a night makes the demons arrive,
Yeah.
So, um, okay, yeah. So he said that his longest work was at the Mountains of Madness, and it was just a novella. So
Oh,
he
wow.
doesn't have.
Okay.
He's a good person to start when you want to do like, okay, a chapter a night. Well, now it's okay, a short story a night. You know, I'll read this right now.
Yeah.
I'll read that right now, and he's a good way to start on
think
that.
I think I have an H.P. Lovecraft Greatest Works compilation. I have to see where it went because we got rid of the bookshelf because of the baby. So my wife has like almost every single book Stephen King has ever written,
Yeah,
and
great place
I
to start
have,
too.
yeah, I think my favorite Stephen King book I've read was actually Cell,
Cell was good.
just because of the description of the part where the dude's floating in the air. I think that was Cell, and he's got some kind of disembodied voice. And at that point, I was like, this is not a regular book anymore.
Mm-mm.
And it took me to a whole new place. And that was one of the first Stephen King books I ever read, was Cell, and it's still one of my favorites. But I'll have to see if I can dig up that H.P. Lovecraft compilation.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I definitely find that kind of having a little bit of time to read in between, and now now all my reading is going to reading submissions for here, reading short stories and stuff like that coming in. Um,
Yeah.
he said if you like Stephen King and cosmic horror, the closest thing he's come to for that is Revival.
I've heard of Revival, and I do actually want to read it. I think my wife has it in hardback.
Yeah. I'll have to read that. I didn't even know about that. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
So, what's kind of your end goal for your writing? Like, do you want to get published? Do you want to get, a big name, or do you just want to get your stuff out there, kind of thing?
I mean, the end goal is very much to be able to live off of writing. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But realistically, my realistic end goal is just to get it out there, just to have people read it, just to hope that it sparks something in somebody, something good, hopefully. Because I don't know about everybody, but I know that me personally, one of the reasons I like listening to such sad songs and such emotional and reading such emotional works and things like that is because it makes me feel like I'm not alone. So I want to help someone else feel like they're not alone.
Right.
So that's my main goal. The end goal with writing is to help people feel like they're not alone, even if it's just a few people, maybe one a year. If that's one a year, that's still almost 100 people, hopefully, that I've helped before I die.
It's awesome.
So
it's awesome.
But if I could live off of it, that would be nice.
Yeah, no, I think that's every aspiring writer would love that. I would love that. I'd love if my comic book took off and that was my main source of income, and I could just write.
Right, but going back to Lovecraft, if I got famous the way that he did, because if I remember correctly, he wasn't very famous until after he died.
No, nobody really knew him until after he died. He had been published in a few magazines, and a few of his works had gotten big, a little bit big, through those scientific, sci-fi and horror magazines back then. But he didn't really explode until 2 decades or so after his death. He was very ahead of his time. Very ahead of his time.
So, if I get famous that way, that'd be cool. But I'd really like to be able to reap the benefits of it and buy my children nice things
Right.
while I'm alive. So,
Right. So kind of wrapping things up, do you have any advice for any aspiring writers?
just right.
Just right.
No, not just right. Go into it. What you've got to realize is that really the story is going to be how you carry a message. So decide what message you're trying to send. And if your message is just pure entertainment, that's fine. If your message is deeper than that, that's fine too. That's great. If it's like a timepiece where it's pertinent to today, that's fantastic. If it's something that doesn't matter to anybody at all, that's okay too. If it's just make sure that it's something that's important to you and it's going to come across stronger.
Right. Right. And I've said that, I think, in almost every stream I've had now is, people will always be able to tell when you're passionate about your writing. And the audience can see through your bullshit. And they will be able to tell if you've lost passion in it. And you just have
if you're just phoning it in.
Yeah. You just have to be passionate about what you do and believe in what you do. And that's going to be your best way to make things work and to get stuff out there. Because if you're passionate about it and you put the work in, somebody's going to like it. Somebody's going to want to read it. You're always going to have an audience. But if you phone it in, they'll know. They'll know.
Yeah, even if it's just your parents, you'll always have an audience.
Right.
So, and your parents will tell people, and those people might tell people.
Yep.
And who freaking knows? Maybe you'll sell 50, 100, couple hundred copies of a book.
Yeah.
That'll feel good.
Yeah. It's a good point too, Charlie. Write for yourself, never for anyone else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got to get rid of those demons you conjured, reading a chapter a night.
Yeah. But all right, well, I've kind of hit the end of my list. I think we had a really good show tonight, guys. Again, Holden Mars, he is on Amazon. His book is For the Children. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description down below for you guys to click. Give him some love. Support him.
Real quick.
Yeah.
If they want a sample of it because it's on there, if they've got Kindle Unlimited, it's free.
Right.
But if they want a sample to kind of see what the fuss is about, both For the Children and Mortem have been read dramatically on separate podcasts. One was For the Children was read by Nocturnal Transmissions out of Australia.
Okay.
And I believe it's episode 23 or 24. So it's a fortnightly, so every 2 weeks for us American podcasts.
Nice.
And they picked that one to do. And then there was another one, Scare You to Sleep, also read Mortem. But they lumped it in with a couple of others.
Okay.
But it's the first one in the episode of Sinful Lullaby.
Oh my God. I just realized that I heard that before because I listen to that podcast when I go to sleep.
Oh, really?
Yes. Holy crap.
Cool. Yeah, no,
this
man.
This is just a whole day of serendipitous events.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Send me the links to those, and I'll put those in the description as well for anybody who wants to go listen to them.
Yeah, I'll get them on Spotify.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just send me the links, and I'll put them down in the description on the YouTube and Facebook videos. And
okay,
I'll edit this on Twitch so that way it's down in the description too.
Okay, sounds good.
Definitely going to be looking forward to what you got coming out, man. I'm going to be following you pretty closely. I really like what you got going on. I appreciate you coming on. I think you had a lot of really good info, and you killed it, man. So,
thank you.
All right, guys. All the episodes are going to be on YouTube at the Writers Happy Hour. The episodes are also going to be available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a few others. Anchor FM is going to be where I upload them to, and then they'll get sent out to those different areas. I'm going to be uploading it to Facebook. This is the first video on Facebook at the Writers Happy Hour there. Go ahead and give us a like. I'm going to have all the links for everything down below. Be sure to tune in for next week. Love y'all guys. Peace out.